Want to introduce myself. I'm Mrs. Kunjula Sankaila. I am the Deputy Director at Butterworth Library. Just a few rules before we start the session so that we can have a smooth session. Please make sure that your mics are on mute so that we don't have any background noise and any disturbance to our presenter. And also, if you do have any questions that you need to ask, you can drop them on the chat. There are librarians on this platform who will be able to answer to your questions. And also, if you just need to ask it without writing it down, please do raise your hand. We'll recognize you and we'll politely ask our speaker to wait and give you the opportunity to ask your question. Also, we do have our recordings of these sessions that we do on our LibGuide. So we'll post the link on the chat so that you can have access to the recordings if you feel you need to go back and listen again at your own pace and at your own time. You'll get access to those recordings. With those words, colleagues, I just want to welcome you to today's session, and I will hand over to our speaker, Miss Lona Ngwendu, who is a manager, research data and open scholarship. She is at the institutional office. Ms. Ngwendu, you can take the floor, ma'am, and start your presentation for today. Lona?
Good afternoon, colleagues. No, I'm here, Ms. Kunjula. Then the problem was a little bit of network. Then let me just try to share my screen. Good afternoon, colleagues, once again. As I've been introduced, my name is Ms. Lona Ngwendu. I'm the manager for research data and open scholarship. Those are my contact details, my office number, my cell number, then and my email. Today we'll be doing open access, introduction to open access, and what the library, that is the Walter Sisulu libraries, can do to assist you as a researcher to publish on open access and to help you make your research more visible. Let me start with a quote from the European Commission from their open access policy. The results of public funded research should be freely available to all. Open access was started more basically focusing on research that was behind paywalls, and that was funded by taxpayers' money or public funds. So the main aim was to make it more publicly available for everyone. There must be no barriers. The idea they have is a situation whereby someone from the rural areas and someone from the urban areas and someone that is the haves and the haves not, but still have access to the same knowledge, equal knowledge, and they also have the same contribution and collaborations on that particular knowledge. So that is the main, that is how open access movement was founded. It was focusing on research that is funded by public funds. Then what is open access? Open access is a publishing model that allows research to be freely available online without paywalls. It enhances the visibility, accessibility, and impact of scientific knowledge. This means that this knowledge or this information, as long as someone has internet or has access to internet, they must have access to this knowledge. They must have access to research and also contribute towards that research. Open access means more readers, meaning everyone can read the information, more potential collaborators, more citations for the work, and more recognition to the author. Authors generally publish under open licenses. There are many open licenses, but the ones that are widely used are the Creative Commons licenses. And most publishers prefer the Creative Commons licenses when an author is publishing on open access. Open access is entirely compatible with peer review, meaning equality is not compromised, even though they want research to be available immediately for everyone, but the peer review, they go through the peer review process, and quality is not compromised. And also with open access, it's not free, but it's less expensive than the research that was behind paywalls, meaning that they still have to pay for the production costs, for the reviewing, for the editing. They still have to pay that. The authors still have to pay for the APC funds. I mean the PAC. The author publication costs, they still have to pay for that. And also the government covers for those costs of funders or institutions. They cover for those costs. So open access is not entirely free, but it's cheaper than the conventional published literature. Then it also helps researchers to comply with funder mandates, because most funders, they require that research on open access. So when you publish on open access, it will help you to be compliant with the funder, their mandates. And then the core principles of open access. It's no cost to readers. The readers, they pay nothing. It removes paywalls, as I've already stated. If they have internet, they easily have access to that particular research. Reduce the restrictions, liberal use via open licenses, meaning there are restrictions. One can, an author will specify how their work they want it to be used. How can you reuse it, edit it, and whatever, and also and the kind of license that you must use when using their particular research or work. It's immediately available. Research is accessible upon publication, so there are no delays, but research is available immediately. Then there's the National Open Science Policy that supports or endorses open access. We also have that policy in South Africa, and it's been developed by the Department of Technology, so for research institutions. So it has to be used by the research institutions in South Africa, that is your universities, your libraries, and other research institutions. What is the policy mandate? That the National Open Science Policy requires that publicly funded research outputs and data be made openly accessible, promoting transparency and maximizing research value. The research must be freely available immediately online. If it has been funded by public funds, whether it's a research article or its underlying data, that research must be, or your thesis and dissertations, that research, immediately it's been approved, it must be available immediately online without any barriers. Then how do we publish these? The National Open Science Policy is saying universities are encouraged to develop and maintain repositories to store and share research outputs in line with the fair, care, and trust principles. We don't just only publish on these responsibilities, but we're guided by certain principles. Those are the fair, care, and trust principles. Fair means it's findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. Then care is collection, benefit authority to control, and responsible ethics. Then there's trust. Trust means transparency, responsibility, user community, and sustainability and technology. So whatever we publish on the institutional repository, but guided by those principles. Then the National Open Science Policy is also saying that universities must align with the policy, that is this policy, to ensure continued eligibility for government funding and to demonstrate accountability for public investments in research. Meaning the more universities publish on open access, whatever research that has been funded by public funds, they will get more funding. So open access publishing is equal to more funding from the government. Then open access also has a social benefit by making research more accessible. Universities contribute to national developmental goals and to ensure that knowledge benefits society as a whole. That is, there'll be no gaps in terms of knowledge assessment or on the wealth of knowledge that a person of their social status or their financial status. As long as they have internet, then they will have access to research. It also says that scientific research should be as open as possible, as closed as necessary. As much as we have to publish research on open access, but we have to take note of sensitive data. That is, we don't publish information with names of people or any sensitive data. We have to take note of the intellectual property, the national security concerns, and embargoes. Some theses and dissertations, or articles, journal articles, the publisher might say that it must have a 6 months embargo before it is published on open access. So we also take note of those embargoes. And there's also data sharing. Underlying data must be openly available with appropriate privacy and ethical safeguards. Data sets from theses and dissertations should be published on open access. This one is also very important. And I think most universities have been neglecting this part, whereby it says that underlying data from your master's and doctoral thesis must also be published on open access. If you want to comply with the National Open Science Policy, then as universities, we must also publish these data sets on open access, not only data sets from journal articles, but also from our theses and dissertations. Open methods and materials encourage researchers to share their research methods and protocols to allow reproducibility, meaning that when you publish your data sets, the government will not fund research that has already been done. They will check the research methods, the protocols that have been used in that particular research, and reuse them or work from them instead of starting from scratch. That's something that has already been researched and published. So open access also helps with that. Then there's also infrastructure support. Universities must invest in repositories, platforms, and tools that support open science. This also includes financial support and support for the personnel that are working on these repositories, so that they can be able to improve the research visibility of the institution. Then the policy is also saying that there must be review must be open, that is open review, making the peer review process transparent and publicly visible. What does this mean? It means that the peer review process must be public, must be published publicly. They believe this will reduce the risk of biased reviews, and it will also get the many people to be part of their review process. And they also believe that if review is open, then the peer review is an open process. Then the researchers and the reviewers will conduct something that is of quality, because they know that it's going to go to the public. So it also improves the quality of the peer review process. Then the National Open Science Policy also supports the citizen science and collaboration. Not only the public must read the research, but they must be part of the scientific research process and also be allowed to collaborate with scientists and be part of the research process. Then we have models of open access. I think I've selected 3 in this presentation. Then we have gold open access. In gold open access, the author on the institution or the institution pays the article processing charge or the article processing fees. These are fully open access journals, freely available to everyone with internet. This means that the author will publish on open access journals, that is journals that are already on open access, but the institution will pay the APCs or the author. We call that the gold open access. Then another one is the green open access, whereby the author, they deposit their research output on a repository. They can self-archive, or they can be a librarian or someone in the library that assists them with depositing their work on their repositories. For authors to be able to do this, they must own the copyright, and sometimes the research output might be accessible after an embargo period, because some publishers might require that before it can be published on open access, that there must be a certain embargo period for whatever reason. So we have to respect that when publishing on open access. Then there's the hybrid open access model. This one has both traditional subscription-based publishing and open access publishing. The institutions or the authors, they pay for the APCs. They've got full access to subscription journals. That means articles that are on subscription journals, and also the authors own copyrights depending on the journal policy, and help authors meet funding requirements. What it means here is that you publish in a journal, in a subscription journal, but then you publish that article on open access. The institution pays for you the APCs. That is the hybrid open access. Then there are licenses that govern or control access would be on whatever work that has been published on open access. These are the Creative Commons licenses. The mostly used are the Creative Commons licenses. There are other open licenses, but the ones that are recommended and are mostly used is Creative Commons licenses. What are Creative Commons licenses? They are standardized, legally sound tools that allow creators or authors to grant permission for others to use, share, and sometimes modify their work under clearly defined conditions. That is, you have control as the author, you have control on how the users can use your research output or whatever you've published on open access. Allows authors to give permission under copyright law, standardized set of licenses, safeguard the integrity of the work, and attribution is given to the author. Provides a flexible view of copyright compared to the all rights reserved or no rights reserved. In the olden days, or in the traditional way of publishing before the open access, the open science movement, there were 2 copyright publishing models. I would say that the all rights reserved or the no rights reserved, whereby the user had no rights in using the work in terms of printing, reusing, or anything. They can only read whatever has been published when it's been, and then when it's on open access, then they can use that research output in whatever way they feel they can use it without any restrictions. So Creative Commons came to solve that, so that some sort of standardized way on how to use a research output that has been published on open access. Then there are benefits. I've summarized some benefits of using the Creative Commons licenses for the creators and also for the public. They share their work widely while keeping the credit. That means they credit you for your work you've created, encourage remixing, collaboration, and learning, reach global audience more easily. That is when you publishing your research output or your research data on open access, you choose your license, your CC licenses that you want to use. Then immediately if that license is effective, immediately publishing that particular license is effective. It builds visibility, reputation, and impact. And then for the public, it eliminates legal uncertainty around reuse because it's clear on how you're going to use that particular research output. Make it easy to find openly usable content, enable lawful mixing, adaptation, and redistribution. Support education, research, journalism, and creative work. Reduce permission friction across borders. So basically, it controls how open access research must be used and accessed. These are the types of Creative Commons licenses. I think there are 6. Yeah, there are 6. Then, but the one that is mostly used by publishers or is preferred by publishers is the CC BY, whereby you have to attribute, others can copy, distribute, display, perform, and remix your work, but they have to credit your names as requested by you. That one is the most widely used by researchers and widely recommended by publishers. Then you can also select the other Creative Commons licenses as per your need, as per you advised by the publishers. But these are the 6 Creative Commons licenses that we have. Then at WSU, at Walter Sisulu University, University Walter Sisulu, how does the library help you the researcher, to maximize research visibility? One of the things that a researcher has to do. Then this one is also endorsed by the National Open Science Policy, whereby it says each researcher must have their OC ID. OC ID is an open researcher and contributor ID. It is a unique digital identifier for researchers that connects you to your publications, funding, research activities across platforms. Meaning, if you can have different author profiles or your researcher profiles. That is your Google Scholar, your Scopus, your Scopus, your Web of Science, and other researcher profiles. But if you have an OC ID, you can link all that research, those researcher profiles, including the research that has been published on under those researcher profiles, under your OC ID. For funding, if they want to see what you have published, you just give them your OC ID, then they'll have access to everything that you've published, the funding and research activities that you have done or that you have contributed on. It enhances visibility by linking your open access publications to your OC ID profile, increases your research visibility, and ensures proper attribution. I've already stated that one. ORCID integrates with institutional repositories like your Figshare and DSpace and publishers, making it easy to track and showcase your work. Also, we do have institutional repositories, your DSpace and your research data repository that is powered by Figshare, whereby if you publish your data set, then you can also link your ORCID to that data set. So it appears under your ORC ID. But the training for that will also be conducted through the course of the year. Then the best practice is always to maintain your author profiles and link open access outputs to maximize your academic presence and credibility. That means you always have to maintain your researcher profiles and link them to your org ID to improve your research visibility and also maximize your presence and your credibility. Then also another way whereby we increase visibility or assist researchers to increase their research visibility is through transformative agreements. We usually call them TAs. What are transformative agreements? These are contracts between research institutions. It can be your universities, libraries or consortia, and it contracts between these research institutions and publishers that shift traditional subscription-based models towards open access publishing. As we all know that we usually had a research output research output that is available behind paywalls. Libraries or universities had to pay subscription so that our users can have access to those journal articles or the research output. But through TAs, they are moving away from that, but to open publishing models, whereby instead they pay for the open access publishing instead of subscriptions. These agreements allow researchers to publish their work without paying individual APCs by covering costs through the institutional deals. TA combine subscription payments with OA publishing fees, enabling a gradual transition to full open access. That means we can have journals whereby the library will pay for both a subscription to have access to subscription content and also to open access and also publish on open access. Then there's also the read and publish agreements, that is pay for both reading paywalled content and publishing open access articles. That is the publishing part, whereby they pay the subscription, but then still also pay to publish on open access on subscription journals. Then there's also publish and read agreements, meaning the libraries, they pay on open access publish journals or publishers, but then they pay the APCs on behalf of the researchers for reading access. The university has signed transformative agreements with the following publishers. There's Wiley, there's Emerald, there's Science Direct, there's Springer Nature, there's Cambridge University Press, there's Oxford Journals, there's Taylor and Francis. But then to have more knowledge on how to publish on these publishers, we do have a LIP guide on transformative agreements. Trainings are conducted throughout the year on how to access and assistance on these publishers and publishing through transformative agreements. We do have people the librarians in your campuses will be able to assist you on how to publish in these publishers under transformative agreements. Then another way whereby the library helps with research visibility is through institutional repositories. We have the research data repository that is powered by Figshare and the research repository that is powered by DSpace. They are web-based archive of scholarly material produced by members of a defined institution. That is at WS, we will only publish a research output that has been produced by our researchers or academics affiliated within the institution. It showcases the collective intellectual output of the university, captures research in digital format. Then it also allows self-archiving You can also deposit your research output on your own. Then it goes through, before it goes through the review process before it is published on open access. Function in accordance with specific policies set by the institution. And also at WS, we do have the RDM policy and the intellectual property policy. These policies, they guide us on how to, or they give guidance, yes, or govern what must be published on open access and what type of research output must be published on open access as in Walter Sisulu. Then has diverse content. It can be your thesis and dissertations, your journal articles, your conference proceedings, your data sets, your book chapters, it prints your presentations. It also bridges institutional repositories. They help to bridge the global knowledge gap because it's more important with whereby we publish our theses and dissertations. Because if we did not have institutional repositories, that kind of research wouldn't have been able to be available online on open access if we did not have research repositories. And that research, especially from master's to doctoral studies, that research is peer reviewed, so it's quality research. It deserves to be on open access, to be used by everyone and improve the quality of life of the citizens at large. So that's how repositories bridge that global knowledge gap. What is not available on them on other publishing open access platforms, they can be available on the institutional repositories and be published on open access. Then I also thought I must retract because when you publish these your research output on open access, they will also be available. You don't only have to search them on those repositories, but we can also search them on your Google Scholar and other repositories. Besides, they are available publicly for everyone, besides even going to the research data repositories. I searched for this. This is a data set that is on our research data repository. But then I searched it on a Google dataset search. Then I could find it. That's the name of the dataset. Then the authors, these are our authors. Some of them are from Walter Sisulu. So you don't only have to search them on the research repositories, but they are also indexed on other repositories or open access publishing platforms. That's how open research is when you publish it on institutional repositories. Thank you, colleagues. I'll wait for answers or comments with the assistance of other library staff members, the knowledgeable library staff members that are also on there, that also joined the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ngwendo. That was a very informative presentation that you've just done. I hope you are all the attendees are also excited as I am. There's a lot that you've unpacked. You talked about the principles, the care, the fair, and the trust principle, and you unpacked those. You've spoken a lot about the institutional repository, the Creative Common licenses. You also touched on the impact of the research if you publish it openly and the reason why you should publish openly. I hope my audience have also gained a lot from this, and by tomorrow we'll see you trying to get where you can find the transformative agreements so you can leverage on those discounts from your publishing. So Ms. Ngwendu, that was nice. That was very nice. Can we give Ms. Ngwendu a round of applause, colleagues? A round of applause. Thank you, Ms. Ngwendu. Any questions? Any questions? Comments? Okay, I see that there's no questions. Okay. Afika, you can unmute and ask your question.
Oh, no, thank you, ma'am. I just want to know the open access that we're talking about. Just to be clear, is it the OPEC that appears on the library, or those are two different things?
Ms.
Thank you.
Ngwendo, is the open access that you are talking about related to the OPEC that we see on our library page? Can you answer to that?
Later with the OPEC, where you search for library material, library
Yes.
resources.
Yes.
No, it's not. This one is publishing, is about publishing research on open access.
Oh, okay, no, noted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maliwa. Any other questions, comments? Okay, in the absence of questions and comments, I just want to allude to the fact that there is a platform where you can find all the recordings of the sessions that we conduct for our researchers, and I've shared the link on the chat. So if you want to go back to this recording as well, just to listen at it at your own time, please do visit that link, visit that LibGuide so that you can get access to all the recordings that we have on that platform. And also, I just want to say that we have these sessions for our researchers every Wednesday and Thursday and Tuesday. So please be on the lookout, because we post all the sessions that we have organized for the researchers on our news desk. So we always make sure that we post those so that you can have access to these platforms and learn more about what can enhance your research, what can improve your speed of searching for resources, and also what are the tricks that you can use to get information from the vast databases that we have in the library. So with those words, I just want to thank you all for attending the session. I don't know whether Dr. Ngoyeni is available to make the closing remarks, but if he's not, I can close the session with a thank you. And also, we look forward to seeing you again for other trainings that we will be conducting. Thank you and have a good afternoon. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you,
Thank
the
you.
presenter. Thank you, Mr. Sangela.
Thank you, Lorna.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you.
This was great.
Yes, it's very powerful. Especially if you are a researcher, you can leverage on a lot. Thank you.